he is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay, because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
Back to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we bring you the secrets of top performing entrepreneurs who know how to scale and succeed. Today, we have an incredibly special guest with us, another Canuck, another Canadian, someone who is not just scaling businesses, but helping others do it too. He specializes in helping high-ticket coaches, consultants, and info product entrepreneurs create scalable systems and automate client acquisition. Before founding his 7-figure company, iCreateConsultants, which reached that milestone in just 8 months, he built not one, but 2 multiple 6-figure businesses from scratch. His expertise in lead generation, sales systems, and automation has made him a sought-after consultant for those looking to grow their businesses quickly and effectively. He's here today to share his journey, strategies, and actual steps so that you can take your business and scale it to next levels with leverage systems and automations. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Kay Somji.
Jay,
what is up, Kay? How you doing, brother?
What's up, my man? How you doing? Love the intro, by the way, man. Looks really good.
Hey.
Thank you for bringing me out, and thank you for sharing me with your audience. Hoping it's going to be a banger.
Absolutely. I know it's going to be. And you were just reminding me where we first met. Maybe give a backstory of kind of like where we met and then how you've been doing since we were in a mastermind together.
Yeah, so it's interesting you asked me that because I had to think back. So Jay and I were in the same mastermind in, I believe, 2021. So there we go. You have the trophy. I don't have mine behind me here. I actually have mine at my parents' house. I keep it there so they can see my accomplishments. All my accomplishments and accolades, I give to them so they can.
Wow, you're such a good son. I love it.
Yeah. So we met in that mastermind, and at that time, I'm not sure what your business was. My business, it was a few months into launching iCreateConsultants, and I was doing between 30 and 50K a month. It was very kind of erratic in a good way. Joined that mastermind to kind of systemize and scale things up. Did pretty well in there. And I think, there were a few of us that were really nailing it in there. And to my recollection, I think we just kind of reached out to each other, or you probably reached out to me, and a few of us conversed with each other who were really killing it in there. And we created those relationships. And I think that's the beautiful thing about masterminds, because look here, 3.5 years on, we're doing things together now, right? And same with other people from that mastermind and other masterminds. And that was actually my first coaching program that I'd.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got to the point where I was doing over $250,000 a year by myself, right? With no coaching, no support. Now, that wasn't necessarily the best way to go about it. I had a lot of trial and error, but that was the first coaching program I actually invested in. And from there, it kind of propelled my growth, got me investing in more things. And yeah, business has been on an upward trajectory since then, learning things, implementing things, new constraints, new bottlenecks, new pains, new fires to put out. But that's part of the game, and we learn and grow, and I'm eternally thankful for it.
Amazing. So there are a lot of people here who are listening to the podcast, or even, who are watching this right now. And they're like, 3 or 4 years ago, you were stuck at like 30 to 50K per month, and they're at a place where they don't even have an offer that's launched, or if they do, they're not even making 3 to 5K, let alone 30 to 50K. So you have all these strategies, you have all these automations and systems, So take us back to, launch, growth, and scale, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so launch, I think that is one of the most essential things, because getting off the ground, you've probably heard people say it, getting to 10K a month is the hardest. From 10K to 100K is easier. It can sound kind of crazy, but it's very true. It's a different level of skills that you need to learn. It's a completely different skill set. Going from 0 to 10 or even 20K a month is really about nailing your offer, nailing your product market fit, making sure you have something that resonates with the market, something that people actually want, and then just a simple method to be able to sell it to them. Like selling a 5K offer 4 times a month. I mean, 1 client a week is not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. Then when you are going from that launch to kind of growth, then it becomes more about systems, frameworks, automation, and just repeating things. And then from there, obviously people will give numbers, and that could be 50K a month, 70K a month, 100K a month. It's very arbitrary. But once you have that system continually working for you, then scale comes in. And what I define scale as is more hiring, delegating, managing, which is a completely different skill in itself. Like launching the offer, knowing what the market wants, testing it, putting in the reps, doing the sales, creating the content, that is one stage. Next stage, systemizing and refining. And then the final stage, if people want to go there, some people don't. Some people are happy, doing their 70, 80, 100K a month, which we're not gonna sneer at that, right? It's great bloody income. But for people that want to take it even further, then hiring, delegating, training, and managing is a whole different skill in itself. So for those people really trying to get off the ground, I would say the most impactful thing is actually providing something to the market that the market wants. Not just thinking, what am I good at? Or what do I want to sell? What does the market actually want? And where does that intersect with what you're good at? Because a lot of people, not to sugarcoat it, they put out offers that aren't very good. They put out offers that the market doesn't want. Or they do something like they've made $1,000 a month, and then they say, well, I'm going to teach people to make $1,000 a month, where, people don't want that. And if they do, you're not learning to get better at maths. If you get 20% on an exam, you're not learning from somebody who gets 35%. They're still not very good. You need to have a certain level of competence and certain level of results. So I think people should really focus on getting good at something and then launch an offer around that thing that they know how to do, while packaging it up with a bit of a unique mechanism so they don't sound and look the same as everybody else out there, if that's not too harsh.
That makes perfect sense to me. And I think there's a lot of people that are listening out here that are not sure what the market wants, are not really sure what they're good at, and how to intersect those two. What would you say to those people who are listening out there that want to leave their corporate 9-to-5 job, that they have a miserable boss, that they're not wanting to go into the workplace, and they really want to find a way to monetize an offer? Where do they start in terms of finding what the market wants and how it intersects with what they're good at?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's good that we start there, because especially when people want to leave a job, they can just be putting out endless content and getting nowhere with it. But those are the 2 key things. Find what the market wants, find what you can deliver, what you're good at, and find the intersections. To find what the market wants, that's where you're going to have to put on your entrepreneur hat. That's where we really see what you're made of. Go out and look in the market at what the market is telling you it wants. What is selling? What offers are other people putting out there that are doing well? What gaps are there in the market? You can do research in Facebook groups, on ChatGPT, on Reddit threads, and it can sound a bit painstaking, and it is. But guess what? 99% of people will not do this at the beginning. So you actually want to look at not just what the market tells you they want, but how they're voting with their dollars, how they're actually spending their money. If somebody's doing $1 million a month with an offer, well, guess what? There's demand for that offer. Now, that person is probably further ahead than you, maybe more knowledgeable, has better marketing and sales. But the fact of the matter is that kind of offer is wanted and desired by the market. So find a list of those things in your niche. So the niche that you want to go after, whether it's kind of a fitness, health, nutrition-based offer, a make money, wealth, investment, saving offer, or relationships, dating, marriage, feeling better, all these different things. Find what your overall niche is going to be. See what kind of offers sell in those markets, and then intersect those with your skills. What are you good at? What do you know that could be of benefit in those areas? And a funny thing I find is when people tell me, well, I'm not good at anything, I have two responses to that. Yes, you are good at something, go and look deeper. But the fact is, a lot of people may not be very good or very skilled at things that actually matter, but they act like that's the end of the world. Well, if you're not good at something, go and learn it. Guess what? If I wasn't good at anything and I wanted to know, if I knew LinkedIn, selling LinkedIn marketing services would be a great offer, but I didn't know anything about LinkedIn, I would just go and learn it for 90 days. People act like, oh, I don't know something, therefore I can't. No, you can always learn new things. Again, if you don't know anything about intermittent fasting, learn 3 hours a day for 90 days. You will be in the top 5% of the planet. I guarantee you that. Anything, if you go and apply yourself and learn it, you need to have some kind of skill to be able to teach and coach it and sell a product around it. And you can always learn that. And that's, I'm sure Jake can attest, we do that daily. We are always students of the game. We are always learning. So wherever you are, you just want to start learning and implement what I just laid out.
I'm smiling because you're like, it's like music to my ears. You're like, we're singing from the same sheet where, you know, if you don't have a skill or you don't know what the market wants, you just got to do the research and find out what the market is demanding, where the product market fit is, where the market message resonance is. And then, like Kay was saying, if it's LinkedIn selling and you don't know how to do it or you suck at it, take the next 90 days. And if you suck, learn how to suck less. You know, Malcolm Gladwell with the Outliers Principle, there's people that talk about the 100-hour rule. If you do 18 minutes per day, you're going to be, you know, better than 95% of the world. And that, like you said, is being a student of the game. I think that's super valuable and important in the launch stage. So let's say they're getting to, $5,000-$10,000 and they want to grow even more. You talked about systems, you talked about frameworks, you talked about automations. I don't know if you have examples of software or tech stacks or frameworks that you use. What are some tips or best practices that you would suggest to help them to get to a place of growth?
Yeah, we kind of deal with all of it: software, automation, tech stack, SOPs, email marketing, SMS marketing. But I tell people there is no one size fits all, because we could slap all of this into your business and a lot of it could be a colossal waste of time. What you want to do is look at your individual business and identify the constraint. So let's say you're at 5 to 10K a month. Let's go with 10K a month and you want to build from there. So you'd look at, okay, if I'm doing 10K a month, where is my constraint? Let's say we reverse engineer that from the clients. You're selling at 5K. Okay, I'm getting 2 clients a month. How many calls am I doing for those 2 clients a month? If you're doing 20 calls and getting 2 clients a month, then your constraint is the close rate. You don't need any automation. You need to get better at sales. However, if you're doing 8 calls and closing 2, that's 25%. That's not bad. So we know closing isn't the constraint. And this is where people focus on the wrong thing. They will try and close higher when they're already closing at 30, 40%, or they will focus on a different area where their metrics are already on KPI. So you want to determine your KPI. And so if sales is on track, then you look at what's the next metric that leads to that is the show up rate. If you're closing well, but your show ups are only 50%, well, that becomes the constraint. Then we want to say, okay, from the time between them booking and the time that they show up, something is going on to make them not show up. So then you would see, what can I install? Can I install reminders? Can I install trust building assets? Can I install some emails that send some case studies? Can I handle objections before the call? If you find that objections are what leads to you losing the sale, then handle the objections up front. So what I want to share with you is identify your constraint, your bottleneck, and then fix that. And that could be anything from traffic to lead generation, to show up rate, to follow-ups after the call, to people showing up on the call while they're driving. You just find what the constraint, what the problem is, and you solve for it. And I mentioned that one humorously because in one of my other companies, we have a B2C offer and we have that problem where it's more 9-to-5 people not selling to business owners, and they show up like at work and driving and things like that. So we just made it very clear that, hey, if you show up under these circumstances, we will cancel the call right away. So you just look at what your problem is and solve that constraint.
Love that. So you're just a master problem solver, and you just get better and better at that to find out what the bottleneck or the constraint is. You mentioned some key numbers, which I love. I'm a money math kind of a guy, and there's people who are listening here who are starting that don't understand what KPI metrics are and what kind of numbers. You talked about, if you close 2 out of 8 calls, that's a 25% close rate, which, some people would, they don't know what that is and what numbers justify. These are KPIs, like show up rates. If they're 50%, what should they be? So if you can kind of comment on some of the KPIs that would be, if you can hit this metric in your show up rates, your close rates, your cash collected rates, your booking rates, all those kinds of things, then people have a better idea of like, oh man, I'm way below where I need to be able to help grow and scale my business. Can you shed light on that?
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting that, because sometimes we can talk about all these metrics and KPIs and just get into
yeah
that everybody understands, right? And so
Yeah.
what I like to do with KPIs and metrics is see what your business is optimized for and see where you're comfortable with things, because some people want to optimize for like a 50% cash collected, and some people say 30% is great, and it really has to align with your goals. So if you are doing, let's say, 1 call a day, and this is what I love about the high ticket space, 1 call a day, that's what, 30 calls a month. If you're doing 30 calls a month and you're closing at that 25% rate, that's what, 7.5 people, let's call it 7, and you're selling a 5K offer, that's for $35,000 a month, right? That's what, $420,000 a year. That is a good, significant income. So you could adjust your KPIs, you could adjust your rate, but understand you can't always go to 100%. Like, you're not going to get 100% close rate, and you give up things to get other things.
Right.
And so it really becomes, you want to see what your business is optimized for, because going past a certain close rate, you might see, okay, we could raise prices, but then you raise price and your close rate suffers, but your overall revenue and cash collected is higher. So it depends what you optimize for. So it is kind of hard to give just straight cut ranges, but I would say on average, kind of from what I've seen, industry standard, 25% close rate is pretty decent. A lot of people say, oh, that's bad. But if you're booking 4 calls a day and you're closing 1 a day at 5K, and you make 150 grand a month, well, it's not so bad then, is it? So it really depends on the rest of your metrics. So 25% close rate, pretty decent. In terms of show up rate, especially with a lot of distrust in the market lately, I find in the B2B space, kind of 70 to 80% show up rate is where you want to be. In the B2C, you can see them go as low as 50%. You want to try and maximize that as well. Again, around 70 would be great. It depends if you're doing like a 1-call model, a 2-call triage model. There's so many variables that go into it. Show up rates,
Amazing.
70 to 80. Close rate, 25 and above is good. And then lead to call is very different depending on if you're using primarily email marketing, DM strategies, ads, or if you're just like me and Jay and just aggressively hit and everybody from every angle.
So if you were to give a lead to call rate, what would you say would be a good KPI to aim for?
Very difficult to quantify.
Like, let's say let's go organic, and then let's go paid. If that makes sense.
It also depends what kind of lead you're generating. So if you're generating let's say an ad, if you're doing an ad to a lead magnet, which I don't recommend people do, I think that's not a very good strategy. Haven't seen it convert on cold traffic at scale. That might be 1%. Whereas if you're running a direct VSL to call funnel, you want to see more like 10% there. So it depends what you're optimizing for. Again, on the organic side, if you're doing a lead magnet, which does work well organic, a free course with setters to set them, maybe 5%. If you're doing straight to newsletter, it could be 1%.
Now, are you doing all organic? Are you have you mixed with paid ads?
We're doing both organic and paid. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And if you're looking, and this is a perfect segue to scale, question for scaling. Now that you're actually just doing a great masterclass on launch, growth, and scale. At what point in terms of revenue, would you recommend going to paid ads? And if so, for scaling, how much ad spend and what kind of KPIs are we looking for to scale?
I don't look at it from a revenue standpoint, because I've seen people turn on ads at around 20, 30K a month. And myself and clients have done over 100K a month completely organic. And it was breaking a bit of a limiting belief, because I've heard, oh, you can't go over 100K a month organic. And I realized, well, yes, you can. So there's so many different ways. And then there's also back-end strategies where if your front-end offer is a 5K and your back-end is a 25K, of course, you can really extend LTV and recurring revenue as well. So I don't think there's such a thing as when you hit a certain revenue level. I think it's more when you've kind of tapped out the leads and you really want to focus on lead growth. I don't look at organic and paid as separate entities. I look at paid client acquisition or paid lead acquisition simply as a lead generation channel to feed the system. And then the system becomes where they opt in, where they get, and we can go really deep on this, right? They opt in, they get emails. They could even get something we've been testing with clients is retargeting ads, where we retarget them with pieces of content to build trust, to handle objections. And that could be if somebody's already booked a call, we want them seeing all these things before the call. So I think I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but in terms of revenue level, I think it's more when you start to cap out, when you want a new lead generation avenue coming in. And when you can predictably scale, your margins need to be good, because then you can have the phenomenon where you spend $1 to print $3 or print $4, but your metrics, your KPIs, your cash collected needs to be in the right zone to make that friendly and permissible for that to happen.
Well said. So let's say you are scaling and you're making, I don't know, let's say 50 to 100K a month. Talk to us about who you're hiring first, and whether it's a VA, whether it's a setter, whether it's a closer or closers, whether it's client success or other coaches. Let's say you have, like, I don't know, 100 clients. Most people would, love that idea, but their systems and their fulfillment would probably break at that point.
Absolutely. A lot of people want what they don't have the systems to support. And in terms of first hires, I think it's going to depend on what you want to optimize for. So the first hire I always recommend is some kind of a VA. Take you out of the mundane, take you out of the tasks that anybody else could do. You might as well focus on your zone of genius, on the things that only you can do. And some of the best, most highest leverage tasks are going to be videos like this, are going to be podcasts, are going to be content, are going to be getting yourself out there. And to so many people, they want to remove themselves from the things they quote unquote don't want to do, but that they do best. So many people try and take themselves out of sales so early on, whereas in a personal brand-led, person-focused business, it's going to be so much easier for you to close than for a closer, because they see you, they've seen you in the content.
That's right.
They've got DMs from you. They like you. They like your sales systems and your mannerisms. And then they speak to you. It's so much easier, even if you may not love doing it the most. So VA first, then I would say maybe a setter, but it depends if somebody has an appointment setter model. And this is the thing. Setters are absolutely fantastic, but then that comes with having to train, manage, and uphold the morale of that team. So is that something you want to do? Maybe not. For somebody else, it could be they send emails primarily, and then they may want to hire a copywriter. Or it could be if somebody's very heavy on content, which is a direction I'm going into, and I think it's very wise. They could say, okay, my first hire will be a VA. My second hire will be an editor to clean up the content, make sure the content looks good, make sure it's optimized for each platform. And then when people come in, so I've experimented with setters and different things, and now we just get most of our inbound DMs are just, hey, I want to work with you. How does this look? Because I'm not starting a bunch of conversations to build rapport. And that's something I've chosen to do. I don't do the whole 100 conversations to build rapport. It's only talking to the inbound DMs who have expressed interest, and then outbound messaging leads. So we do use appointment setters as well, but it's going to depend for each person. So I hope that gives some insight. It doesn't just use
100%.
Yeah.
So the inbound DMs, which is where we want to go with, like, instead of push marketing, getting that pull marketing where you're getting people who are buyer aware, have interest in buying. And are the inbound DMs coming from video content from YouTube? Where's the primary source of inbound DMs coming from?
Primary source of inbound DMs is from social media content. So your Facebook, Twitter, or X, I think they call it now, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Different strategy for YouTube. For YouTube, we understand that more trust has been built, more people have seen us, know our face, know us, like us, trust us, spent more time with us. So for those people, we send them directly to a call because their buying temperature is higher. Whereas the inbound DMs is usually the first point of contact of, hey, I've seen your stuff, I've seen the results you've been able to get for people. What does it look like to work with you? And from there, we can either book them straight in for a call if their buying temperature is high, or we can send them a couple of sales assets first to build that trust. Or if it's just a first message of a conversation, try and ascertain, well, where are they? What are they trying to look for? Where we don't want to jump the gun. Hey, you've come to me for help. I'm not just going to pitch you. I want to see, can we actually help you first? And would this be a good fit? So it's really nuanced. And this is what kind of drives me up the wall about other entrepreneurs and other coaches and consultants saying, this is the way, this is the message you send. No, those people have clearly never interacted with human beings before. Like, there's a level of nuance to it. Each person is an individual. I got a nonsense message today saying, oh, we can help you scale your business. And I said, well, what level do you help businesses with? And they said, oh, we help businesses doing like 0 or doing 1 billion. I'm saying, oh, what kind of nonsense is
Whoa.
that? Yeah.
Like the whole moon.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you really want to be aware. And I think this is very good for transparency and good for client coach fit, is knowing who you can help and how you want to help them. If somebody's an advertising agency that relies on, Google pay-per-click ads, that's not somebody I'm going to be able to help at this stage now. And to backtrack on something you've mentioned, I don't want to leave that out of the last question as well, but you mentioned about client success and managing, maybe having a client success manager. Again, it depends. I think getting oneself out of fulfillment can be great, but also they are coming there to learn from you. So you want to be cognizant of that. You want to do that at the right time. For me, I still coach my clients. I could pull myself out of that, but I've decided to pull myself out of other areas and still maintain that frontline access there. At some point, I may diminish that, but for now, that's kind of how we're going. I know where my best strengths lie, and I optimize for those.
Amazing. So I wonder if you can give some advice for people who are trying to generate content and they're getting crickets, but you're going from content to conversion through inbound DMs. What is either a growth hack or a tip on just creating better content that people would be like, hey, that was valuable, versus like, we run of the mill was like, that was AI, or that wasn't really valuable. I wouldn't share that, or I wouldn't really think that I can win from that.
Yeah. First thing to look at is, what are you optimizing for? So my content doesn't get the most engagement, and that's by design. I'm optimizing for clients and cash flow. I'm not optimizing for thank yous and, oh my God, that was so helpful, and I'm going to share it with all my friends, or the worst, depending on how you look at it, that was so valuable, mate. I'm going to go and implement those, and I'll let you know how I get on. Thank you so much. Now, that doesn't do much for me. That doesn't generate a lead. It doesn't generate a client. It doesn't generate cash flow. And even worse, what I find is, even though I've given them value, a lot of those people will go and try it on their own, realize it's not as simple as following a process from one post, and they'll just keep trying it for weeks or months and not getting anywhere and staying stuck. And so this is one of the drawbacks. Nothing's going to be perfect, but this is one of the drawbacks of trying to give everything away in content. It can be very good for trust building, but it can be bad for cash flow as well, because then people think, oh, I can just do this myself. I don't need help. And then that keeps them stuck for longer. That sometimes ruins their morale. And sometimes they actually quit because they tried and it didn't work for them. So know what you're optimizing for. I don't get the most engagement, and I am completely cool with that, because I cash flow a lot higher than many of my clients who have an audience 10 times the size of mine. And I just posted a case study from a client today who has an audience of, over 100,000, but the cash wasn't there, and we managed to get her up to that. So know what you're optimizing for. And then in terms of converting content, You're going to learn by two ways. You're going to learn by studying proven successful content. It's just like if I go to the gym and I see somebody with the size of biceps I want, assuming they're not doing any substances that I don't want to do. If I see, all things considered equal, their biceps are bigger than mine, and I see, they are doing this exercise, it might be wise for me to do the same exercise. If I see, they're eating this, it might be wise, don't you think, for me to go and eat something similar. So a lot of it is just observing what works. And to take that into our social media context, if I see people's videos doing well at 20 to 30 minutes, long form, maybe I might want to do that instead of 2 to 3 minutes. If I see people starting with a powerful hook, 7 to 10 seconds, it might be wise for me to do that instead of rambling for the first 2 to 3 minutes. If I see people doing better with a certain image, it might be wise for me to emulate that. So have a look at what's working and simply emulate it in your style. And then the second way is to simply put in the reps. You're not good because you haven't done it yet. You weren't good the first time you got on a bicycle. But guess what? Day number 100 on the bicycle, you're going to be good. Or you're at least going to be a lot better than you were. Day number 1 on video, you're going to be absolutely awful. I promise you that. Day number 10, you're going to be absolutely awful. Day 20, you're probably going to want to cry. But by day 100, you're going to be so much better. So putting in the reps in conjunction with analyzing what works, because putting in the bad reps doesn't help, but putting in good reps and getting better, and like we said earlier, being a student of the game is really going to help you propel yourself to get better. And then look at what works for you. If you say, when I talk about, I'll give you an example. One of my content pillars is I do a lot for my parents. I retired them, paid off their house. I send them on 4 luxury trips. Thank you. I send them on 4 luxury holidays a year. Pretty much one every.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much one every quarter. I've sent them to Africa on safari. I've sent them to Mexico. I've sent them back to the UK for my mum to visit her sister. I'm sending them on a 10-day cruise in just about a month now. Anyway, I digress. One of the things for me is I notice those pieces of content do extremely well for me. They are outliers. So I double down on what works. What works for somebody else may not work for me. And when you track your metrics like a true entrepreneur, you see, this works for me. I'm going to inject this into more of my content. Or the same with when I share client results. I used to just share, this person got this result. Now I share, this person got this result. This is where he or she was before. Here's the problems he or she had. Here was the limiting beliefs he or she had. Here were the small wins they had. Here were the self-doubts that still crept in. Here's what we did to change things. And I noticed when I took people along this journey, it converted a lot better in terms of inbound leads. Worse in terms of engagement, but better in terms of inbound leads. So I track all this stuff and I look at what did we post? How many leads did it get? How many conversions did it get? How many engagements did it get? And same with emails and everything. You're always tracking and seeing what works. And this might sound a little bit crazy. You don't need to, you're going to build up to this when you're doing 5 to 10, 15K a month. I wasn't doing all this. But as you get further along, you realize small hinges swing big doors. And if I can make one change in an email or one change in a piece of copy that gets us 4 new clients a month at a 7K price point, it's an extra $28,000 a month. That's an extra over $300,000 a year from one small tweak. Then it becomes super important to really track the metrics.
Wow, that was amazing. Maybe end up with this thought. You talked about scaling with SOPs, and I don't know if you guys use automation. I think you guys use automation with like reminders and stuff like that, but do you use AI tools or automation tools for lead gen, or is it all manual with yourself and or setters and paid ads?
Yeah, so we haven't really implemented too much AI right now. I've been experimenting with things and learning and diving in. Most people are just using it for like ChatGPT style content. We do use AI in certain ways. So I'll use it right now. One of the big ways is taking a piece of content, training the AI and using it to extract. For example, one of the bots I have is where each email that I send out, and I send out an email every single day, it will take that email and it will turn it into 5, 6, 7, 8 good micro pieces of content for Twitter. And then we use the good ones, we reject the bad ones, and then those go out on automation around the clock. And then for those, we can kind of double down on some of those that perform well and turn those into longer pieces of content. In terms of the automations, we have several automations. I'm not a huge fan of 100% automating the business. And this is, again, something I just see online, people saying, create a fully automated business. Well, Apple isn't fully automated. When you go in there, there's employees there helping you person to person. Tesla isn't fully automated. The people selling the most expensive luxury properties in the world are person to person. It's not fully automated. So unless you know better than them, that personal touch does go a long way. But there are certain automations we use as well. So AI, we're trying to add a few things in, being very mindful of putting the right ones in. And in terms of automation, yeah, we will automate certain pieces of content. We will automate through softwares, but we'll also automate through team members. So I'll give a little bit of the inside source away. If one of my emails goes out and that email is turned into a piece of content for Twitter, that stuff might go out 5 to 7 days later. And if that email performs very well, better than our average, that email is then taken by a team member and posted on LinkedIn and Facebook and optimized for those profiles, optimized for those platforms. So that is still done by a human being, but it is still, I guess, automated on my end. And then the system and software automations, yeah, for email intro sequences, for reminders for calls. And what we also do, because I see most people just doing reminders for calls, reminder your call's coming up, reminder your call, and we get it, right? You sound like everybody else, but then we'll send out automated emails with, hey, here, just so you know, here's some of the people we helped who might be in a similar position to you. Send out the case studies. Some people come and ask us these objections. Here's some of the things that will be important for you to know before the call. So we're sending out trust building assets, nurture assets, assets that are going to make our time on the sales call easier, get us towards that 7 hours of content that Google says is, crucial to make that sale, build that trust with us, and just really make the sales call more like an enrollment call. Like they've had the trust built and the education. People often come to the call saying, people haven't educated us to the level that you have before bringing us on a call. And so I don't want the sales call. Again, I'm digressing, but I think it's important. I don't want the sales call to be an education call. I don't want to educate them on that sales call. Obviously, sometimes you have to, but I want the education to be done before the call. And then they come on the call seeing if and how we can help them install the solution.
Okay, so that was absolute fire, Kay. I mean, what maybe people who are watching this and listening to this is, I don't want to educate people on the sales call. Kay was saying, I want people to be educated before the sales call. And how you do that and the secret sauce behind that is key. He talked about reminders. He talked about emails with case studies. He talked about trust building assets and nurturing those leads to be able to get that 7 hours of content and even handling objections up front. So when you get on that sales call, Kay was saying, it's not even a sales call where they're trying to discover what you're doing. They already know, they're educated, they have a good understanding, and they know the process, and they've seen all the results that you've been able to get them. So they're pretty confident. They're coming in with high energy, excited with expectation. And like Kay said, it's kind of like an enrollment call. Like, so it seems like, we're a good fit. It seems like, your timing is urgent. It seems like you have a problem that we can solve. And you've seen, case study by case study that we've been able to help people in your niche industry. And they typically can say to you, like, Kay, like, what's the next steps? Or what is the investment? Or how long is the program? How much support do we get? Which is a great call to have. It's just a matter of enrollment and maybe payment plans and just a couple of nuances to help them get tied up. So that is, I think, from the launch of growth to scale, on how you go from 0 to 10K months to 25, 50, and even 100K plus months in a nutshell. And we haven't even talked about paid ads to kind of put fuel to the fire, and that's another episode for later. But hey, you are an absolute fire bringer. You just brought so much fire. You brought so much value. What would you say to the free gift that you're giving to the people? There's an iCreateConsultants newsletter. Talk about that, and I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay, thank you. I see you've left the link there. Yeah, so I don't want to give, just any generic kind of course or anything like that, or, PDF. I would just send you to my newsletter. We have over 22,000 coaches and consultants, product creators just like you. Yeah, I've been growing this for a very long time, way before we even met. And so we have over 22,000 people reading these emails daily. And I'm going to send one piece of insight, one nugget of information every single day that you're going to be able to implement into your business, whether that is lead generation, closing, trust building, mindset, nurture, follow-up, content creation. I'm going to send you one piece of information every single day. And I'll also interject some life stories as well, because what happens in our lives shapes our businesses so heavily. So go there. Fair warning, I will email daily. So if that's not your cup of tea, don't subscribe. But if you want to get that one piece of insight daily, go ahead and head there.
Wow. I only know very few people that are doing 365 emails per day. And that's incredible, because I know that I've heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that if you're doing email marketing properly, each connection or contact can equal $1 in an MRR. So if you have like 100,000 people on your email list, then that could be 100,000 for here. If you have 22,759, just from that email list alone, that could be $22,000 in MRR, not including your upsells, not including your high ticket, not including your low ticket stuff, which is incredible. So what is a last thought or word that you would give to someone who, has been trying to do this, has been trying to grow their brand, to try to grow their content, to try to grow their business, are kind of stuck in this hamster wheel of trying to launch, grow, and scale? What kind of words of inspiration or encouragement would you give someone, as we say in Canada, who is ready to hang up their skates, or who is ready to kind of fold their business? Because there's lots of people who are in that boat.
Yeah, it is a tough position to be in, and I've been there myself as well. So I can definitely speak from experience. And I find that often comes from trying to do too many things. And think about what you want to optimize for in your specific stage of business. So Jay, as you mentioned, if they're ready to hang up the boots, as we say in the UK, or hang up the skates, if they're ready to do that, then it generally, not always, but generally is because of low revenue, low cash flow, not being able to sustain the business. And in that case, I would say just look at whatever stage of what you are optimizing for. So in that case, the two main things that I see never really fail to move things forward is to only focus on these two metrics to start, which is booking more sales calls, or however you sell, because some people don't sell through calls. I recommend selling through calls until you get better that you don't need to potentially, but sell through calls, focus on the KPI of booking more calls and then closing more calls. All of your actions should be directed towards booking calls and closing deals, because those are the only things that's putting money in your bank account today. Podcasts like this are fantastic, but they're probably not putting money in your bank account today. Ads, they're great, but they're probably not putting money in your bank account today if you're not at that level yet. Creating a fancy website, great, but not right now. It's not putting money in your bank account today. Getting that photo shoot, getting that brand, getting all these things, they are secondary. The primary things to focus on, booking calls and closing deals. That's it.
Wow. Okay, there you guys have it. Booking calls and closing more sales, because that's the name of the game. And we got to really be singularly laser focused on those activities, because like Kay said, we get shiny object syndrome, we get enamored with AI tools and automation and think that we need these things that are really kind of fancy and ahead of where we're at in some of our stages of business. And so really get simple with your offer, get singularly focused. And I think one thing of many things that I learned from UK is that, what do you want to optimize for? I heard that I'm a musician, so I heard that motif or that thread or that theme of everything that you do, you have to be able to solve that problem of the constraint or the bottleneck that you have. And when you can set that specific goal of what you're trying to solve, then you can come to a place where you're going to be in the launch to growth and scale. So thank you, Kay, so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing your time and your wisdom. And for everyone else, you guys got a treat on scaling your business with leverage, systems, and automation with Kay Somji. So thank you guys for tuning in. And we're here to help you to sell more, to give more. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Kay.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
you.